Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company, the auto shop of the future, to our weekly podcast. And we have a special guest today, Jim Stack, who is a local early EV pioneer. I first actually met Jim at an Oktoberfest party that another EV enthusiast here locally was giving, Rolf Lohr, who, by the way, is on our podcast next week.
Yeah, I heard.
One day before he goes to Germany to do an e-cannonball run from Berlin to Munich. But anyway, at this Oktoberfest party, there were a bunch of us standing around, bench racing, talking EVs, and I began to describe the new venture that we at that time were creating, Gruber Motor Company, talking about the battery work that we do. And Jim piped up and said, "Oh, you guys are probably using 18650 cells." And I realized at that point, anybody that carries an 18650 cell must be quite serious about alternative energy. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Jim, before we get started here.
Okay, I've always been interested in environmental issues and technology. And some people don't think the two go together. To me, I think they go together perfectly. I put in solar at my house 21 years ago in 2001. I couldn't find any solar companies around that seemed to understand or wanted to do what I wanted to do, so I did it myself. And then when the power company came out to inspect, I had to explain it to the power company inspector. I'm like, this is kind of strange that nobody knows about this. Hardly anybody does it. And then I started checking for incentives and things like that, and our state pretty much didn't have any. So that's where I got involved to try and tell others about it and to go talk to the power companies to say, hey, how come you don't have any incentive? Or you're stealing my extra power I make. So it's kind of fun.
Awesome. So you've been involved for many years in this field of EVs and alternative energy. And you were telling me that you're the president of the local Electric Automobile Association.
Yeah.
How many years?
I've been president about 11 years because why would anybody want to do a job where you get paid nothing?
Okay.
It actually costs you money. So I've been the de facto president. No one else wants to bother, and I think it's important.
You know, I did a little bit of research on the EAA. And by the way, I don't know if you recall, but you guys came out to see us a couple, 3 years ago or so.
For sure.
At Gruber Motor Company, there were about 20 or 30 people or so that took a tour of our facility, and they were also early pioneers. But the history of the EAA is kind of interesting. It precedes all of the major manufacturers that exist today.
Yeah.
So they were truly pioneers.
And to make your own.
Yeah, they were formed in actually 1967, and it was a way to share the benefits of transitioning to gasoline, from gasoline vehicles to electric. And so the EAA saw its membership swell as a result of two events. One of them was in 1970 and 1973, which was the gas shortage.
Yep.
The OPEC squeeze, as some people call it. And it really was a wake-up call, I think, for the U.S. that other forms of energy might be important, and our dependence on fossil fuel should really be reviewed. Today, there are 100 chapters of EAA all around the country.
Yeah. Even international. I got some in Canada, all around.
Do they?
Yep.
Okay.
Mexico.
So what was it like 11 years ago with membership and, raising the awareness?
It was kind of interesting because we could see when gas prices went to $4 a gallon, everybody believed. We had rooms, you couldn't get a big enough room. You had people standing only, and they're all going, yeah. And then when the gas price would go down, the membership would go down.
Really?
We had half as many people. Oh, yeah, I care about the environment, but if it's cheap, I don't care.
Right.
It was amazing to see that reaction. So I was kind of disappointed in that part, but there's still some few true believers. There's some even today that'll convert and do their own conversions. We had one in our 100-mile rally we do every year that did a Volkswagen Beetle, put in an AC controller and lithium batteries. He was in our 100-mile rally. I'm like, all right, a conversion, home conversion that's as good as made anywhere.
So you've probably seen a lot of the hobbyists over the years before the major manufacturers came in, Tesla, of course, being the largest at this point.
Yep.
What kinds of
And the best.
what kinds of examples of true pioneering effort have you seen?
Well, again, I was real lucky. We had a Soul Fest in 2004, and I called up and invited the AC propulsions people that make the Tzero. Hey, would you guys like to come out and show off your car? And they said, oh, yeah, okay, we'll come. I'm like, really? I couldn't believe it. And they came out. They were the first ones to use the AC controllers. Most people did DC. That was a huge change. That just like in the electric grid, when we went from DC to AC, the world changed. Of course, that was Tesla that came up with that. And so all of a sudden we had this great new AC controller. I couldn't understand how they could do it so well. And they were the first ones to do lithium batteries. They looked at every different battery, and they found out that 18650 was made for laptops by the thousands. So it was very cheap. Their price per kilowatt was cheaper than any other battery. So, and the fact that it was lithium, had more power, it was lighter, everything about it was amazing. To see those folks there, and I met Tom Gage, he came out, they were so pioneering, they were so far ahead of everybody else. Everyone else is still back with DC and just big differences. And that technology, and then as our group would build and convert cars, I started seeing some of us get into making vehicles. You remember Gene Cosmano? He was Mr. Electric Race Car, every kind of vehicle. He drove dragsters. He was an older man, and we converted his pickup truck, VW, I think they called it a Fox pickup, small pickup,
Right.
over to lithium batteries. And I even got University of Arizona, ASU, used to test solar panels at the Polytech campus. And they donated some solar panels, so we put solar panels on the back of his truck.
Right.
It would get him about 10 miles a day automatically without doing anything. And he had the lithium batteries that dropped 1,100 pounds off his truck, and he could actually drive it in the winter in the cold. I mean, just huge difference on something that simple.
Right.
Just the changes and the updates that we have today are just mind-blowing to see how far we've come from where we used to be.
Sure.
I'm like, this is batteries that are non-toxic. That was always my dream. And in the first early years, there was nothing.
Yeah.
You'd maybe make a spiral wound lead acid battery or a gel cell. We thought that was progress, but nothing compared to lithium. Was just night and day.
Yeah. And you know, the Tzero that was paraded here, Tom Gage, I remember him. I spoke to him after we bought our Tzero. There was
Alan Cucconi was the brain behind them.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
that's
He's
what AC
super
stands
guy.
for. Most people think it's alternating current. It's Al Cucconi that actually
He was
his initials.
Pioneer, even with the EV1. He helped on all these things. Great guy.
So that was the first time the Tzero went to Arizona. The second time it went to Arizona was an event that you were involved in when we brought our Tzero to that car event.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was definitely a crowd pleaser. I remember that.
Yep.
You know, that particular Tzero, there were only 3 of them built, did not have the lithium-ion conversion. Only one did, and that was the one that actually Martin Eberhard commissioned AC propulsion to convert.
Yep.
Ours actually had the Optima spiral wound lead acid batteries in the doors and 4 of them below the PIM in the back.
Yep.
You know,
And it worked. It was better, but the lithium was same color.
Oh.
Amazing difference.
The range dramatically improved from 80 to 100 miles to almost 400 miles
Yep.
with the lithium-ion batteries.
Huge. When Tom drove that out to our Soul Fest, he came all the way and got out here on one charge from California. He got out here and it was later at night. He said, oh, I just showed up. No one's here yet.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to be there tomorrow. Can I come up and help you get a charge or something? He goes, I don't need one. I've got over 60 miles range left. I'm like, I can't believe it.
You know, another funny story Tom was telling me, they took it up to Pikes Peak, the Tzero.
Yep.
And they got it up to the top and they figured, well, let's charge it. So they charge it near to full, right? Then they realized, oh my God, we've got regen braking on the way down that hill. We're going to boil those batteries.
Yep.
So they spent the next hour or so, he said, circling the parking lot, trying to drain the batteries so that they wouldn't fry them on the way back down the mountain.
Exactly. And
Fascinating.
even today, people do that. Pikes Peak and Mount Lemmon down in Tucson.
Yeah.
And I say, you show the pictures of going up, but coming down is the best part of it.
Yeah.
They go, what do you mean? I said, when you're coming back down, you gain about 3/4 of the energy back. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Amazing.
Fascinating. Sure.
Try this. Sorry, everybody. Got some weird stuff going on. This microphone about
Okay.
to here you go.
We have technical issues. Please bear with us.
Here we go.
All right.
Got some weird.
How's that? We'll do a test for you. Audio check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about you, Jim?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Are we good? So you seem very technical. Tell us a little bit about your technical history, your technical background.
I don't know if I'm super technical, but I've always been interested in energy and electricity, things like that. So when I worked at the telephone company, I would always go and analyze any office I worked in to say, gee, does the air conditioning flow the right way through the cabinets? Found out most of them, they line up the opposite way of the airflow, and it was just terrible.
Right.
And we used to have to check lead acid batteries, talk about lead acid. They were wet cell lead
Oh, the
acid,
wet
they
cell,
were big as a
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
We have to go and check them for voltage and the amount of acid in them and everything. So I'd always be watching those things, and any equipment we put in, I'd monitor how much power it uses, how much heat it makes, and I'd write up little what's it worth reports and send them to my company and say, hey, you know, these things are creating a lot of heat, the air conditioning's wrong, this things like that. I did away with a certain piece of equipment called the echo canceller. When I did, I added up how much equipment we saved, how much wiring we saved, how much heat is not in the office. And you added up, it was like unbelievable, nationwide, millions of dollars. And they get mad at me like, that's not your job. You shouldn't tell us what to do. I'm like, oh, man. So I
But
try
it
to
was-
be technical, but
It was a left brain endeavor. I fully understand.
Pete,
Yeah.
I'm putting it on your camera, so if you want to talk, I have to fix that. It's still not.
Okay. All right. So we still have a microphone problem with Jim, but I'll just ad lib here for a moment. You know, speaking of those big wet cells, we use them in the uninterruptible power system world.
yep.
Gigantic rooms with wet cells that weigh 400 to 500 pounds. But you know, the interesting thing about that old technology, which actually hasn't changed for over 100 years, those batteries last a long time. They're good for 20 years.
Yep.
Extremely high maintenance, though. You've got, you know, like you said, you
If
have
you don't
to,
mind all the acid in there, imagine if you ever had an earthquake and all the acid's floating
oh,
around.
can only imagine. Of course, they go in special rooms, special ventilation, you know, the
And they
local
have lead in
zoning.
them, and lead is the worst pollution in the world.
Yeah,
So I see things like that, and I'm like, I don't care how good they are, they're not environmentally good. Other batteries like lithium
yeah.
are just amazing, the difference. There's certain ones. But those, let's say, are still used, and if they last, people look say, well, if they're lasting, they're holding up. They might not be too bad. Getting rid of them is kind of hard once you got them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see all of them done away with, banned, and penalized for using lead acid.
Yeah.
Just
So we're going to have to use your mic. I've lost
Okay.
power to this mic.
All right, we'll just put it in the middle, crank it way up, and proceed and continue. So in the uninterruptible power system world, data centers basically, it's fascinating to me that that industry has not yet shifted over to lithium-ion in a big way.
some are.
It's spotty, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and power companies, the best thing in their central grids are putting in huge, by the megawatt, lithium battery center. And guess what? They're the same battery that we have in the car. They use them for these huge megawatt.
Are we talking 18650 cells?
Yes,
Really?
yep. And they're starting to move to 2170, and they're probably going to go to the
Oh, we have
to our 4680 to see the differences. I don't know if they'll pick up too good on the camera. But
Can you see that, Jesse?
moving to a little bit better, bigger format battery.
Hold it a bit closer.
Oh, okay. So Tesla found out even if they make them even bigger, they're not good. They're too big.
Really?
And I'm like, you got to be kidding. Because if you look at the ones in the Nissan Leaf, the worst battery that can't hold up because they have no cooling, those are modular, large format batteries. And sure enough, they get hot. There's no way to cool them. And they fail like crazy. Whereas these, they found this is the optimum size. They redesigned the way the battery is connected internal. They have multiple connections. It's just going to be a huge, huge change, just like going to lithium. Just amazing. I just love it when you see technology like that.
Sure.
So, and then they're talking about other people about solid state. The solid state looks like it's going to be maybe another 2 to 5 years out. In the meantime, Tesla took what they had, improved the format, and these are just going to change the world as much as these other batteries did.
Fascinating.
So, impressive stuff. And that's why I follow technology. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but Sean and I realized that the 12-volt lead-acid battery in Teslas were dying like crazy.
Yeah.
They're heavy. They're a pain to change. And they're made with lead. Lead's the worst pollution in the world again. When you take that, I mean, we took it out of paint. We took lead out of fuel that was put in gas to make it anti-knock, and we never took it out of batteries. So these new batteries, just amazing. So Sean and I looked at that, and we took the 12-volt battery, and by using some of these older format 18650s that were the older chemistries, we found out we can make it look and act just like a regular 12-volt. It's about half the weight of a lead acid. It lasts unbelievable. We haven't had a single one fail yet after about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I financed him to help develop those, and he sells those so much now that even Tesla called him, said, hey, can we start getting 50,000 a week? And we're like, we can't make that many. Okay, they'll get their own supplier. So they're starting to offer them in their cars, no lead. I'm like, we got rid of gas, no oil. Now we're no lead. That's huge.
Actually, Elon admitted in that Sandy Munro interview that the conversion from lead acid 12 volt in their vehicle platforms is way overdue.
Yep.
So it's, there are certain priorities during a production run like that, and you tend to pick the tough ones and leave the simple ones alone.
Exactly.
It should be the opposite, but yeah.
And we'd hope that they would get to it, but they're doing so many other amazing things. We said, okay, we'll help them a little bit. And we went to the opening of the battery factory in Sparks, Nevada. And after they gave a talk and everything and all these great things they're doing making the batteries, we were going to ask them about, why don't you do away with the lead-acid battery? We've got a lithium one right here. Couldn't get their attention. They picked all the cute young girls and people that look like from other countries.
Yeah.
So Sean and I tried, but finally it came through.
Good, excellent. So what kind of electric vehicles over the years have you owned?
Everything from a Chevy S10 early 90s electric vehicle that had a lot of little issues and problems. Had the old flat panel fast charger, if you want to call it fast. So that's one of my first ones. I had a Fiero that was electric. That was, again, a car converted because the Fiero, as most people know, was a terrible car. That V6 motor would catch fire. It was just a hazard. It was terrible. So we took one of those, made it electric, and we even checked out the NiCad batteries the military used, the 600 cc battery it was called.
Yeah.
We put a whole bunch of string of those like Tesla does with their batteries, and they were supposed to last. They used them in Huey helicopters. We said, wow, this might be the next best battery because it'll last a long time. Cadmium's not so good for you. And they just didn't work out that good, and you had to add water to them. So we were always trying, experimenting. I always hated the idea of just a dumb old lead-acid battery. So I said, there's got to be something better. And we tried, and when lithium came along, we're like, this is it. It's amazing.
So we have an S10, we had a Fiero.
Yeah. I also had a conversion of a Bradley GT, which looks cool with the Falcon Wing type. These are actually Gull Wing type doors. Coolest looking car. It was just a puny little Volkswagen chassis under it and a DC motor and some lead acid batteries. So it looked cool, but just didn't do it for me with what I really wanted, was something that would have lithium batteries, have amazing range. So now, in fact, I've looked through all different cars. I had an early Nissan Leaf. It was so bad, I wrote it up, complained. They bought it back from me full price. I got another one and leased it. They said, oh, we've improved the battery, made it heat tolerant. It's a heat tolerant battery, are you sure, without any cooling? That's what they called it anyways. And I called it the lizard battery. That caught on. Everybody calls it the lizard pack. That was just as bad. So I turned that in and said, I'll never own another Leaf till they learn to do proper cooling of the battery. If they don't do that, I just think those kind of cars are bad. So I had that. I've had a Kia Soul that used air cooling. It was terrible. All 20 of them in this area failed.
Really?
Kia failed to acknowledge it. They had no support. You couldn't even buy it here. I had to buy it in California. Then when it went bad, they had to ship it all the way back to Palm Springs. ship it all the way back a month later, covered with black soot from the diesel truck that towed it back. I'm like, this stinks. I'll never buy another Hyundai or Kia because they just aren't with it.
Yeah.
So I own a lot of different ones. I try to buy every one that's out there to compare it and test it and see how it does, and then tell people, I owned one. This is terrible. This is good.
Yeah. So your most recent vehicles are?
My most recent is a little humble Chevy Spark that I drive, and it's only rated 84 miles. Easily, I go over 100 miles every time I drive it in the middle of summer, middle of winter. So that's my daily driver. I use it for delivering things for all different stores and people, take them to doctor. I use it, take people all over because there's no gas, no pollution. I have a solar house, so I can drive pretty much for free. So that's my daily driver that I like the most. I carry my little fold-up bike in the back that I call my range extender. It can go as fast and as far as you want, as you can.
Yeah.
So I can't go very fast, but it comes in handy.
Until you run out of stamina or
Yeah, and I also had a Tesla Model S. It was too big and heavy. I didn't like it.
Really?
I'm the only person probably ever said they don't like a big, heavy, monstrous car.
Yeah.
I got the Model 3 when the first one's out. I said, this is pretty neat, but I got a glass sunroof that doesn't open, and I can't keep the heat out. I wanted to put a wrap on top of it. Anyway, and there wasn't quite too much room with that small rear end. It didn't open like an S with a big hatch. So my wife talked about it, and so on Valentine's Day the other year, I got her a Model Y. She loves it because it's lots of room.
Yeah.
It's actually more efficient than the 3. Has everything you can imagine. One of the best performing cars. Super efficient. The back has like 30 square feet more room, and it's more efficient. How did Tesla do that? It's got 80% less wiring because they used the bus system. Just phenomenal things. The heat pump they made more efficient. I love it. So you think that would be my best car ever, and I'd be happy there? I ordered a Cybertruck and a gift to my son-in-law. He's a contractor. He'll be able to zip around in a Cybertruck. And then for me, I always like efficient cars. I have a Aptera.us on order. It's a very efficient, looks like a Dolphin almost. It's,
Yeah, three-wheeler.
yeah, 3-wheeler, 2-passenger, super efficient, gets over 10 miles per kilowatt. My Chevy Spark only gets 6.8. Most people drive and only get 3 or 4 if they're lucky, especially people that drive Teslas. They drive heavy foot. So now they're a watt waster instead of a gas hog. But with the Aptera, it also has solar on the back, so you just park it and it'll recharge itself. I'm getting the one that's 400-mile range. They have a 600 and 1,000-mile range. No other car can do anything like that because it's small and efficient, aerodynamic.
Right.
So I'm impressed. Always something new and different, interesting.
Well, you're sampling them all, it sounds like.
I do.
What kind of lead time are they giving you on that Aptera?
It was supposed to come the end of this year. Now they're talking the beginning of next year. So it'll be maybe January. And we've been waiting maybe since beginning of the year, about a year. But I don't mind waiting if it's good, if it's efficient.
Right.
I think it's great. Back when they first were going to come out and they got taken over by Ford and some other companies, I put down a deposit, was waiting to get it, and they had to cancel it because everybody got their fingers in it, tried to make it into a Chevy Malibu or a Ford Mustang. Right. I'm like, no, you want it small and efficient. Yeah. So I'm real happy they're back to the original idea. The 2 founders are back doing it. They're saying, no one's going to buy us out. We're doing it right. I'm impressed.
So what do you think of the Electromechanica Solo vehicle? Kind of a similar concept, 3-wheeler.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, but it's only 1-seater, so you can't have any friends. Okay. You can't get somebody, here, let me show you how good this is. Yeah. Let me explain it to you. You got to say, okay, get in and hope we don't crash it. So I think 2-seater isn't that hard. So I think it's pretty neat because for people commuting, 70% of people commute alone. So that could be good, but I just like a little more room. I don't think it'd be that hard. And I've signed up for a test drive a couple of times, and I'm trying to catch when the people are in just to try it out. I think it's about a 100-mile range, which isn't bad, but the Aptera is 400. So I'm like, I think I like the idea of a better range, super efficient. Solar panels, you park in your driveway, you get an extra 30 to 50 miles. I just think that's pretty neat.
So what kind of battery system in the Aptera?
The Aptera uses, I'm pretty sure, the 2170 cells that many other companies are making now. Tesla developed those. Right. So it's supposed to be that type of cell. And it has a cooling system for you and the car. So I think they are doing everything that I would dream about, they're doing it, especially having the solar on it. Usually solar on a car, you're lucky if it run your air conditioning. On this car, because it's smaller, more efficient, it's going to actually gain it real miles every day. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be fun. I want to do a little video trip up the Grand Canyon and back. On the way up, I'll use maybe a third, over half of my range. On the way back, I'll regen coming down all those hills. I might come back home with almost as much as I started with.
So you started telling me a story about the ill-fated EV1, the GM EV1.
The EV1's a great story because we actually used to follow them around and take pictures when they're getting ready. Since they're only leased, was GM really serious about it when only they would lease? That means you could always call it back and crush it.
Yeah.
That's what they did. The Honda, they have a little Honda Fit that's all electric. Guess what? Honda only leased it. They're taking them all back. You can't keep it. And people love that car. So with the EV1, they had a great little car. They switched it over to nickel metal hydride batteries, which gave it almost double the range. An amazing thing. And then he still wanted to crush it. There was us in line, a bunch of people. We wanted to pay him cash. We'll buy it. You don't even have to have a warranty. We'll take it. Yeah. They wouldn't listen. So I used to take pictures of them over at the General Motors Proving Grounds, all lined up, one with the red, white, and blue flag picture on it. I said, they're crushing our flag. And we'd post those pictures. Chelsea Sexton and some other, Andrea Paul drove out here in California. I'm trying to remember, I think it was in a hybrid to get out from California, because they were going to talk to him and follow the truck that was going to crush him. They were following it on the way back. The truckers called and had the police arrest these girls. They're threatening us, some big burly truckers. So they wouldn't let them follow it. They're saying, "What are you, that's terrible. You're taking these and crushing them." Sure enough, they're taking them and crushing them. But the big secret, one of our members found out, he said, wait a minute, they got an EV1 pickup truck. They sold these, they didn't lease them. It's the same drivetrain, and they sold them to power companies. Power companies don't want them anymore. He went and bought all 100 he could get his hands on, refurbished them, repainted them, cleaned them up, broke into the controller and figured out how to change the charging and the driving algorithm to use nickel metal hydrides, found the guy that was driving all the hydride batteries back to California to be crushed, and said, hey, can you drop those off here in Mesa? Oh, I told where he lives. So EV Bones, Jeff took this over, converted those trucks over to nickel metal hydrides, and they were fantastic, amazing range, but they couldn't take the heat. He had already started reselling them out to California, mostly Northern California, Oregon, Washington State, some in Chicago. And those, I've seen a few of them are still on the road today. Amazing, because the cooler temps let those batteries hang up. Once he got all those rebuilt and done, he goes, what do I do now? General Motors won't make any more. Nobody else is making the nickel metal hydride battery, as you know, got bought up by Chevron. They said, no, you can't use those in any vehicle unless you use a small format. We won't let you use the big format anymore. So that pretty much killed it for anything except for hybrids. They could use a bunch of little ones. Yeah. And the whole world changed. We're like, oh, no, we were so bummed out until AC Propulsions came along. Mm-hmm. So the EV1, we got their batteries, we got their technology. AC Propulsions went AC controllers, lithium batteries, boom, inspired and changed the world, including Elon and...
In 35 minutes,
I
know you brought some stuff you want to talk about.
I just have a few news items here. And we were talking earlier, battery electric vehicle adoption for the first 6 months of this year. It's up 113%.
Yep.
66% of that was Tesla vehicles. And since last year it was up in the 90% range, it indicates that there are other manufacturers now that are starting to get into the market.
Finally.
And are being selected.
Yeah,
finally. Good point. The most popular vehicle during that 6-month period was a Model Y, which surprises me. I would have thought it would be the Model 3, but apparently...
And the safest. If you look at the safest vehicles, they're all held by Tesla. Of all the vehicles ever tested. No wonder it's popular. People want safety. No, they don't. They want a fast, fun car.
Yeah, right.
Tesla's got them both.
So the what advice would you give to Tesla at this point in time?
Boy, keep doing what they're doing, and I can't wait for those new factories to open. Again, they're a smaller car. Again, I always think smaller, more efficient. The one they call Model 2 or Model C, that could just change the world. It's affordable. It's got lots of range and just huge. And this new battery, this is going to also change the world, where they took all the different formats, all the different types, found this is perfect, changed the way it's built, and now they're starting to build those along with, I think, 3 or 4 other companies. They have contracts in making those batteries. I'm like, go for it. The battery is the key. That's what brought us as far as we are. And like say, uninterrupted power, that's going to be switching. We're finally there. It lasts longer. It's safer. It's better. Great stuff.
What advice would you give to our government?
Wow, that's hard. Maybe stay out of it. Do away with all incentives for everything, because we still subsidize oil. We still subsidize a bunch of other fossil fuels. I mean, they're slowly starting to do away with coal. We still subsidize it. It actually got an increase back during the Bush administration. So hard to give advice to a government that seems to, even when they had, like we had a great incentive here, I meant to mention that, $10,000 to buy an electric car here in Arizona. Guess what? People bought a little golf cart for $2,000, licensed it on the road in their little HOA, and got $10,000 back. That incentive that could have been the greatest thing, we would have been the state with the most electric, got totally blown apart. So I don't know.
People got some really inexpensive golf carts in the process, right?
They got paid to get a golf cart, and then they're dumping them.
So with as long as you've been in this business, are you surprised by the rate of adoption?
Not really, because the hardest thing I think for the adoption is nobody was making the cars. How can you have a high rate of adoption when you only made 1,100 EV1s and you didn't sell them? You can't.
Or 2,400 Tesla Roadsters?
Exactly. A number that there was demand for, even at a high price, and yet they couldn't make enough. Once Tesla started getting up their production, they've been sold out. They pre-sell almost every vehicle before it's even made. I'm like, what other car company can do that? And the other ones are now taking note. When Mercedes-Benz and BMW lost market share, hey, we're into electrics too. Guess what? If you don't, you're dead.
Right, right. Good point. Well, I guess it's time to wrap up. It's been a pleasure having you, Jim.
I mentioned our events coming up.
Would you like to? Sure.
And maybe we could post it on the site later. On the 25th of this month, we're going to be at Salt River Fields with every kind of electric car you can imagine and get on your hands on here in Arizona for our Drive Electric Week event. It's going to be Saturday, the 25th, from 1 to 6. We hope to see everybody, every kind of car, and you've got the most Roadsters. You could bring 100 Roadsters. I mean, why not? So that's coming up. And then at PIR racetrack, they have a time where you can drive around 25 laps to raise money for charity, and we go there in our electrics because all the other cars are there making noise and doing whatever. We're nice and quiet in our electrics, and last time they said, keep going, keep going. We went like 8 or 9 laps. They just like to see us humming around there with a lot of Teslas. That's going to be on October 16th. You can sign up at the PIR, calling them or contacting them, and we're going to try and get a whole bunch of electrics to show electrics are just like any other car, only better.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. So I've got a message here that I need to, the staff wants me to deliver. Don't forget to smash that like button, turn on that notification bell, and check out our Instagram, TikTok, and our website at Gruber Motor Company. This is what helps fund this sort of thing, you know? And by the way, one final thing, our effort with Chilling with Chet, converting a Tesla Plaid into a submarine, appears to have gone viral. There are about a dozen magazine articles now. And, you know, for me, it's reminiscent of my teenage days when there was a guy named Evel Knievel that always pushed the envelope, but boy, he drew the crowds.
Yeah.
And with this latest event with this Tesla Submarine kind of fits that category. The first go around, there was some serious miscalculations between ballast and buoyancy. And I'm being told that we've got some engineers involved now.
Those batteries are too light. You're going to have heavier batteries.
Too many pockets of air in the tires, and basically the car floated across the pond. This next go-around, though, I'm being told that we're actually going to be underwater and prove that a Tesla Model S can go underwater in a trough for about 100 feet or so.
Cool.
So thank you for joining us, and we appreciate all of your support. And Jim, thank you for joining us as well.
Thanks. I watch this show every week, and it's great.
Well, thank you.